What is going on, everyone? Mets Talk with Hayden J here. What is going on, everyone? It is that time of year again. Baseball is back. Mets baseball is back, everybody. Let's go. I'm super hyped. We got so much great stuff to talk about. Just give me one. Mets baseball. All right, audio sounds pretty crystal clear on my end, but that is right. Mets baseball is back, baby. I am super hyped to go over the 2023 season with y'all. So we are back. I know I said that. I'm excited. I don't even know where to start off. But yeah, today, March 30th, Thursday, is opening day for all 30 MLB ball clubs. Something that we don't see a whole lot. Usually some teams will start a day before and then have off the next day. But no, the New York Mets are opening up against the Miami Marlins today in Miami at 4:10 Eastern Standard. We will be going over all of that in a couple of minutes. Let's just, get some people rolling in. But yeah, like I said, we are back with the regular streams for the regular season. It's going to be pretty much the same agenda, essentially as how it's been going for the past couple years on the channel. And pretty much throughout the season, I typically don't do a whole lot of videos. I do more streams. And with that said, during the streams, I typically come on here in between every series, and I summarize the most recent series, and then I preview the series. So definitely that'll be great to look forward to this upcoming season. There's definitely a lot to talk about with all 30 MLB organizations. It's definitely going to be a very exciting year for the Mets and whatever other team you guys are fond of. So I guess let's stop wasting any more time and let's go into what everyone's here for, and that is opening day. The New York Mets are playing down in Miami. They are playing against the Miami Marlins for the first time in, I want to say it's been 13 years since the last time the Mets played against the Marlins on an opening day. It was at Chase Stadium, so definitely quite some time. It's definitely been a hot minute. But with that said, 4:10 is the opening day pitch, and for the New York Mets, they will have a new ace on the mound, and that is in Mad Max Scherzer. Obviously, Max Scherzer is coming in to be the opening day starter, something that the Mets have yet to see. Obviously, the Mets saw Scherzer play plenty of games last year despite injury. Obviously, Scherzer was kind of second in command in that rotation, and now he's kind of going to be taking the ace role. He will be sharing it with, other key ace Justin Verlander. But as of right now, Scherzer is the number one guy in that rotation. Last year, we saw Tyler McGill take it due to DeGrom's injury, but I think that's a story for another day. But yeah, getting into Max Scherzer, like I said, it's kind of hard to give an analysis on opening day, but pretty much going after last year's analytics and some of last year's stats and sabermetrics. Last year, Max Scherzer had a win-loss record of 11-5. So you like to see that for the most part. Posted an ERA of 2.29, a whip of 0.9, some of the more basic casual stats, 173 strikeouts in all, 145 and 1/3 innings pitched. So, Scherzer definitely went out there, pitched a decent amount, missed some starts due to injury. He only played 23 games last year, which, you hope he can try and get near that again this season. You do have, like I said, we'll get into that later with the concern of, Scherzer and Verlander with their age and how many innings they're going to go this season. But yeah, essentially you do have Mad Max Scherzer on the bump to face the Miami Marlins. Scherzer does have pretty good numbers when it comes to him playing against the Marlins for most of his career. Obviously, when he was a National, he played against the division rival quite some bit. So, Scherzer definitely does have plenty of experience when it comes to going against the Miami Marlins. So that'll be a good start for Mad Max Scherzer. Pretty hyped for that. It's going to be a good game. And then going for the Miami Marlins starter in Sandy Alcantara, a.k.a. the reigning National League Cy Young Award winner. And I know a lot of Met fans are like, why do we have to face this guy? And, I definitely see where people are coming from. Alcantara had a phenomenal season last year, winning the NL Cy Young, 2.28 ERA, 0.9 whip, 228 and 2/3 innings pitched, 207 strikeouts. This was a guy who was dominant all of last season and was just consistent. He made outings where he just went off and would just go out there and just be a man on a mission. I guess if you're a baseball fan or a Marlins fan, it's finally good to see Sandy Alcantara, however you want to pronounce his name, finally get the recognition and finally settle into what he want to be. He has all of his pitches intact. Just everything's working out for him right now. And, last year, the Mets got a pretty decent beat up on him for the most part. Not many teams were able to hit or score runs off of Alcantara, but the Mets were one of the few teams besides, really the Mets and the Dodgers were the two teams in baseball that were really able to beat up on this guy. With that said, Alcantara played 4 games against the New York Mets last year. And if we go to our handy-dandy website, StatMuse, we could see how Sandy Alcantara came in against the New York Mets. So Sandy Alcantara versus the Mets in 2022, he only played in 4 games with a win-loss record of 1-1, an ERA of 3.33, 21 strikeouts. So essentially in all of those games, I guess it's good to see, both of the games in Miami, the Mets were able to score 4 runs off of him, and the other 2, 0 and 2. So the fact is, if you could score 4 runs off of him and, 6 hits and 8 hits, 6 and 8 hits, it's pretty good. Considering you have an ace on the mound in Scherzer who, is definitely going to put up a challenge. I don't, anticipate Scherzer giving up, 4 or 5 runs. I really can't picture that at all. So, it's kind of like the DeGrom effect. If you score, run, let your pitching do the job. But, essentially the thing with Alcantara is going to be you have to get him early. Alcantara's and this is kind of the same mentality of thinking regardless, for all veterans, is when an elite pitcher is struggling early on, you have to get them because that's when they settle in. And we've seen that with the Mets a lot last year with Alcantara and, other pitchers in the past, Walker Buehler, Garrett Cole, Adam Wainwright, any dominant pitcher. You have to get them early. And I wouldn't be surprised if Alcantara, maybe in the second or third inning has a little bit of a rough stretch and the Mets are able to capitalize on that, maybe score, 2-3 runs or something with that being said. So if that's the case, the Mets are going to have to take him early. So yeah, Alcantara will be on the bump. Obviously, can he repeat his 2022 NL Cy Young Fest? We will see. That'll be at 4:10 Eastern Standard. Kind of a 50-50 game. I think if the Mets were to lose any game out of this 4-game stretch, I would say this would be it just because of the pitching matchup. ESPN has the Marlins winning it, but that's just more based off of pitching. The Marlins offense we'll get into in a little bit, but yeah. So that'll be game 1 today. Getting into game 2, which is tomorrow's game. That is right. There is not an off day tomorrow. So is that a good thing? That's a bad thing? You tell me. So tomorrow, the New York Mets will be throwing David Peterson on the bump tomorrow. That is right. Verlander will not be the number 2 starter. They're going to put him at the 3 hole for now. That way, Justin Verlander could be the opening day starter for the first Mets home game. So that's interesting to see. But yeah, David Peterson, the sole lefty of this Mets rotation, obviously was in question if he would even make this rotation. There were talks of, him, before spring training and early on spring training, if, David Peterson would even make the roster. If he would start off in AAA. There were talks of him going to the bullpen. And he came into spring training and he shut everyone up. He had an elite spring training. He just shy of 14 innings, only giving up 1 hit. No runs scored. Walks were a little bit of a concern, 8 walks. So you have to be a little questionable of that. I think that is something that Peterson is going to have to work on, is the walks, is the command of the strike zone. That is something that is going to be a complexity for Peterson, no doubt, this season. So hopefully he can really try and figure that out because that would be very frustrating to see. But like I said, right now with Quintana out, you need Peterson as your sole lefty. I do value lefties in a rotation. So with that said, David Peterson is going to have a very big role to be that nice lefty that the Mets could rely on in that rotation. Because like I said, I value it. There's lineups out there who really struggle against left-handed pitching, like the 2021 Mets who couldn't hit a lefty for their life, and now they hit anyone. There's lineups out there that struggle. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but there's guys, even just players specifically, who struggle off of lefties. So, with that said, Peterson's going to have a very important role until, Quintana or someone comes back. But yeah, looking at Peterson last year, he had a very big role for this Mets organization, going 7-5, posting an ERA at 3.83, whip of 1.3. Like I said, the walks kind of inflated that. 126 strikeouts and 105 and 2/3 innings pitched. So yeah, Peterson's definitely getting more innings pitched. So I guess that's good to see. Obviously, I'm a big David Peterson fan, so I'm pretty happy to see Peterson get the recognition. I think he's a very underrated pitcher, and I have no doubt that Peterson is going to break out. No doubt that he's going to break out this year. So yeah, with that said, David Peterson will be starting tomorrow for the New York Mets. And for the Marlins, they will have Jesus Luzardo. Jesus Luzardo, also a lefty, so he'll battle the southpaw. Luzardo didn't have the best season last year. You know what? He had a decent season. The win-loss record definitely fools people. 3.32 ERA, 120 strikeouts, 100 innings just shy, 18 games played in. Long ball was a little bit of a complexity for him. 20 home runs and 100 innings, so it's not great, but also not horrible. So, kind of keep intact with the long ball. So yeah, Jesus Luzardo will be starting for the Miami Marlins tomorrow. So the Mets are essentially going to have to see what they could do off of lefties. Like I said, the Mets have been hitting very well off of lefties in spring training and last season. So you kind of hope the Mets can kind of build off of that from last year. Like I said, I know it's really hard to kind of give an analysis, right now, but kind of go off of that stuff. So we'll see. So that is game 2. Going into game 3, which is Saturday's game, April Fool's Day. The New York Mets will have Justin Verlander on the bump, and Verlander will be making his New York Mets debut. The reigning AL Cy Young is coming over to the Mets, and we're going to see what great stuff he could do for this New York Mets team. Verlander will be on the bump. Verlander is coming off of a dominant season. He's a fine wine. He knows what he's doing. 18-4 record, 1.75 ERA, 0.83 whip, 185 strikeouts, in all 175 innings pitched. This guy's an ace. He's a fine wine. 40 years old, just turned 40, and he's still out there. He's still kicking it. You go to Baseball Savant, you look at all of his rankings. 94th percentile in walk rate, 80th percentile in strikeout rate. In terms of contact results, 83rd percentile in XBA, 65th percentile in average exit velocity, 74th percentile in hard hit rate, 91st percentile in xWOBA, 77th percentile in chase rate. The whiffs, 37th percentile. I don't really care about that. That's not a big deal. Obviously, Verlander, he has a good mix of pitches. If he could mix his pitches, the fastball, the slider, the curveball, and I want to say he has a changeup that he uses every now and then. If you mix those pitches, Verlander is going to be in for a very successful start. Has he ever faced the Miami Marlins before? Let's see. I don't know if he ever has, because he was with the Tigers and then the Astros. So he's never pitched for the NL. So, if there was an interleague game, let's see if he's ever faced the Marlins, because that would be pretty interesting to see. He has. Okay, so he has back in 2013 and 2016 when he was with the Tigers, and he pitched pretty good against them. 6 innings, 10 strikeouts, 5 strikeouts, and most recently was last year he played against the Marlins in June. 7 innings, 0 runs. So, that's pretty good to see for the most part. So, Verlander has a record of 1-0 with an ERA at 1.42 and 4 appearances against the Marlins. So this will be his first time in the NL pitching against the Marlins, and the first time of him being in the NL as a whole pitching. So that'll be pretty great to see as a whole. So Justin Verlander will be starting for Saturday's game. So that'll be phenomenal to see. So keep an eye out for that. Then moving forward to the Marlins starter, they will have Edward Cabrera, who, the Mets hit very well off of him last season, but I'm really expecting this dude to have a big breakout season. I really wouldn't be surprised if this dude just really breaks out. Last year, 3.01 ERA, 1.0 whip, 75 strikeouts, 71 and 2/3 innings pitched, 14 games played. A nice thing that stands out with Edward Cabrera is the 2 secondary pitches in the changeup and the curveball. 2 pitches that he really wiggled around last year, tested it out, and, he came into spring training this year, and he just, him and Schumacher expressed a big fondness for those two pitches. And I think those are going to be two vital pitches for this guy's success. He's a young pitcher. He's 24 years old. He's technically still a rookie, but according to MLB rules, he's not. But expect a very big season for Cabrera. The walks are a little bit of an issue. The command of the strike zone is a little bit of an issue. I guess that's something you do have to express. The barrels and some of the hard contact, sure. But like I said, when you're going to be throwing the changeup and curveball, it's going to be hard to get barrels on those pitches. So that'll be interesting to see how Cabrera goes. Obviously, especially if, you're a lefty, Mets are probably going to want to put a lot of lefties against them because of the pitches he throws. So wouldn't be surprised if you see a guy like Yorme playing that game, maybe starting at third base potentially is a possibility. So we'll see how that goes. And then getting into game 4 and the final game of this 4-game set, Sunday's game, a 1:40 start. Love those starts. The New York Mets will be rolling out with Kodai Senga. Kodai Senga will be making his MLB debut. He's a rookie this season. Crazy to, say a 30-year-old's a rookie, but he is a rookie. The Mets acquired Kodai Senga this past offseason, and he is in for an interesting start. Obviously, he pitched in the Nippon League last season, and this will be his first time playing in the MLB and, of course, playing for the New York Mets. A couple notable things to look at with Kodai Senga is really just going to see how he adjusts to the MLB. He definitely is going to need to build up his pitch count against the Marlins. This past day or 2-3 days ago, whatever it was, Kodai Senga threw 72 pitches in an intra-squad game. He also is probably going to be throwing around 90 to 100 pitches. According to Buck Showalter, I wouldn't be surprised if Senga goes, probably 6 innings potentially. Senga left spring training saying everything looked fine. He felt totally normal. All of his pitches, physically he felt good. Like I said, he threw about 70 pitches his last scrimmage game. It included 15 split fingers or ghost forkballs, whatever you want to call it. And he said it looked good. It looked pretty filthy. A lot of the Mets were not hitting it. I want to say it was, I don't think it was Narvaez catching him. I think it may have been Nito or just a practice catcher. But I mean, just bringing his glove down and they're swinging at it and the ball's in the dirt. It's just, it's going to be a filthy pitch. And I mean, I was speaking with so many people who are Braves and Padres fans, and they're like, this dude's going to be scary to play. He really is going to be a scary guy down the line. When it comes to Kodai Senga, do I think he's going to have this, all-star caliber, Cy Young caliber rookie season? I don't think he's going to have a lights-out Cy Young caliber season, but I definitely think, expectations for him in his rookie season, I don't think he's going to win Rookie of the Year, but I think he could post some, sub-3 ERA, give you 175 innings, strikeouts, I don't really care, just get the outs. He'll probably be a heavy strikeout guy. I will be honest, just considering his pitches, his off-speed pitches, I'm kind of curious to see how he adjusts that to the MLB level. But when it really comes down to it, I think it's going to be interesting to observe. I really do like Kodai Senga. I think he's definitely going to be a great player down the line. Like I said, is he going to have success immediately? We'll see. Mets fans, don't be panicking if, he's not like posting a sub-2 ERA immediately. I don't want everyone losing their shit. It's going to take time for this dude to adjust. Like I said, there's plenty of guys who adjusted. I mean, you had Ohtani come from Japan to the U.S. and, he's great now, but, he won Rookie of the Year in 2018, but, he was never this, he wasn't what he was last year in 2018. It took time for him to build up, and I think that's going to be the case for Senga. Don't get me wrong. I think Kodai Senga is a great pitcher, and I think he will definitely be a great pitcher this season, but I definitely think give it some time. But I think he's definitely in for an interesting season. Senga's going to be a guy to keep an eye out for. So he'll be getting the bump against Trevor Rogers, the lefty, who is in for an interesting season. He had a great 2020 rookie campaign and just last year didn't treat him right. He really just got beat up and just couldn't find control of his pitches and just wasn't really comfortable with what he was throwing and would just get barreled on and the hard contact, couldn't throw strikes, couldn't reach the plate. And he just had a horrible season last year. 5.47 ERA, a 1.5 WHIP, 107 innings pitched, 23 games, and it came to the point where they were sending him down every now and then, and the Marlins got frustrated with him. So the Mets are definitely going to see, what type of pitcher is Trevor Rogers going to be this year? Is he going to be 2021 pitcher? Is he going to be how he was last year? Is he going to be somewhat in between? So we'll see. I think it's going to be an interesting season for the Marlins pitching staff. They're a pitching staff that has a lot of young talent, a lot of young depth. And I think it's just going to come down to, are the Mets going to be able to capitalize on that? He's a lefty. The Mets have established that they could hit well against lefties. This isn't 2021 anymore. So I guess we will have to see how things go in regards to that. So that is the 4-game set that the Mets are going to play against the Miami Marlins. Obviously, it's a 4-game series, 4 straight games. There's no off day. Sometimes the day after opening day, there's an off day. That's not the case for the Mets. For most other MLB teams, there are, but I want to say maybe there's like 5 or 6 games tomorrow. The Mets and Marlins are in that mix. So I guess that'll be good to see if you like baseball. The Mets won't have a whole lot of rest. That is one thing I'm just mentioning it. Doesn't hurt to mention. Obviously, the Mets don't have a home game for quite a while. The Mets don't play a home game for a week, which is pretty unusual to see. Usually, the Mets open up at home, or they play, in D.C. or Philly, and then they immediately go home. But Mets play a 4-game set against the Marlins, and they play a 3-game set against the Brewers, and then they go home to play the Marlins again Thursday the 6th. And there's no off days in between then. So you're going to be pumping out all your guys then, and hence that's why Verlander is the number 3 starter, so he could be there for the first Mets opening home opener game. So that'll be very good to see. Super, super exciting. But yeah, essentially that is really the New York Mets and Miami Marlins series preview. Like I said, coming into it, Marlins are going to be an interesting team, this ball club. The Marlins have always kind of just been a pain in the ass for the Mets. They've always come around and just annoyed the Mets. It's in Miami. You're facing Alcantara today. When you're focusing on today, I think the biggest thing with Alcantara is going to be get him early. As stated before, the Mets have decently hit well against Alcantara. A couple notable candidates. Francisco Lindor has great numbers against Sandy Alcantara. Pete Alonso has some decent power against him. McNeil has good numbers against Alcantara. Vogelbach has great numbers against Alcantara, so I wouldn't be surprised if Vogelbach is the DH today. So you're going to have to get him early. Like I said, there's really 2 teams who were really able to beat up on Alcantara last year and be the reason for his ERA kind of being up there a little bit to an extent is the Dodgers and Mets. Like I said, the Mets scored back-to-back 4 runs against Alcantara in Miami last year. If you could do that, and then Verlander tries to keep it to 1 or 2 runs, and it's a save situation, that works for me. I'm about that. I think any Met fan or Buck Showalter or the Mets organization would be fond of that. So, I guess kind of the biggest thing is just going to be able to hit Sandy Alcantara. And, I think it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, the New York Mets roster has been officially posted. I guess kind of going over it, not really a surprise. You have Pete Alonso. In terms of the catchers, you have Omar Narvaez and Tomas Nido. In terms of the infielders, you have Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil, Francisco Lindor, Eduardo Escobar, Luis Guillorme, and Daniel Vogelbach. In terms of your outfielders, you have Mark Canha, Brandon Nimmo, Starling Marte, Tim LaCastro, and Tommy Pham. So that's kind of your offensive core. In terms of the pitchers, you have Carrasco, Curtis, Hunter, Nagosic, Ottavino, Peterson, Rayleigh, Robertson, Santana, Scherzer, Senga, Smith, and Verlander. So obviously, no Darren Ruff is on that. So that's sure that's definitely a relief for most New York Met fans. And that's the squad that they're going to be rolling out with for most of the season. Super exciting. It's going to be a great year for the New York Mets, of course. But that's really it for the Mets and Marlins season or series preview. And of course, the Mets season preview is going to be over in 4 hours. So I guess let's stop wasting any more time and let's go over into your guys' comments, questions, concerns. If you guys have any comments, any questions, don't hesitate. Feel free to drop it in the comment section below. So what's going on, everyone? Gio, how we doing? Baseball media, Trey, Cal, Marks, Ibindos, Martin, Jack, Michael, Kobe. What's going on? Trey says, cannot believe we are already here. Senny versus Scherzer today. What a treat. Mets by 1,000,000. That's the goal, man. Hopefully the Mets can win by 1,000,000. Nah, that won't happen. But if the Mets can definitely eke out the win today, that's great. Hagen, what's going on, man? Good luck to your Cardinals today. I know you guys are playing the Blue Jays, I believe. So good luck, Miles Michaelis and Alec Manoah. That's actually a good matchup. I think that's probably a pretty good one. Paul, what's going on? Connor, what's going on? He's just so happy Mets baseball is back. Going to be a fun season. Absolutely, man. Eric, what's going on? Trey says, what place in the division will the New York Mets finish with? And yeah, that's a good question. You know, a lot of projections right now are really all over the place for where. Hold on, give me 1 second. Sorry, I just had to text someone. Sorry about that. Yeah, like I said, a lot of the projections are all over the place. I look at some, they have the Mets in first, the Braves in first, Phillies in first, and that's kind of really how it is. Obviously, the Marlins, fourth place team, kind of all over. Marlins are in for an interesting season. When it comes to the Marlins, I wouldn't be surprised if they win 80 games or win 70 games. I could easily see this Marlins team coming out winning 70 games or winning 90 games. It's just either, it depends what's going to happen. I think offensively, they don't have necessarily the talent. But the pitching can do some stuff. Anything is possible. Nationals are definitely going to be a fifth place team. I wouldn't be surprised if they eke out more than 100 losses. So DC fans are kind of just praying and hoping for the best at this rate. And then obviously, third, second, and first is kind of question. The Braves didn't really get good this offseason, but they didn't get worse. You lost Swanson, or the Braves, 3 rookies last year, and Bond Grisham and Michael Harris and Spencer Strider and Orlando Arcia. Are all 4 of those guys going to have sophomore slumps? Excuse me. Are any of those guys going to have a sophomore slump? It's possible. And they were big contributors to their offense last year. I think they're a great team still around. You have the Phillies, who I would say got much better offensively. Trey Turner, definitely that was a huge move offensively. Recently just brought in Christian Pache. However, you lost Rhys Hoskins. That's definitely an unfortunate blow. You're probably going to roll with Derek Hall at first base. I don't think you put Schwarber there because that was a disaster for him Schwarber's horrible defensively, but him playing first in Boston was a disaster. You have a couple defensive liabilities and Schwarber and Castellanos, Will Bryson Stott and Alec Boehm have a great season? I have no doubt that Boehm and Stott are going to break out this season. Rotation-wise, you're pretty good. Verlander, Wheeler and Nola. I think Walker's pretty mid. You have some rotation concerns now. And then the Mets. You have the Mets, who are a great team. You lost Diaz, unfortunately, which I would say is the only kind of negative blow. And it kind of comes to a question, before Edwin Diaz got hurt in the WBC, was this a first-place team? And does a catcher really have control of if this is a first-place team? And that's kind of an interesting thing because, not to undervalue the closer role, but the dude goes out there 3 or 4 times a week and pitches an inning. Yeah, it's a close game. Yes, Diaz came into clutch and shut down many games that could have been losses. Look at 2019. Diaz had 9 losses under him. That could have made the Mets in the playoffs in 2019. So yeah, I don't really think the Diaz loss is like, oh my goodness, the Mets are going to lose so many more games now. No, it's not the case. If it was like Verlander or Scherzer, or, a big offensive contributor, yeah. But, I'm not sitting here saying, oh my God, the NL East is over. That's not the case. But back to Trey's question, I could see them finishing in first. I could see them finishing in second, most likely. It really doesn't matter where you finish in the division now, because we saw last year the Phillies finished in third place. and they got the farthest out of any team. They beat the Braves in the NLDS for starters. Obviously, the Mets didn't get very far, unfortunately. So it doesn't really matter where you finish, because we saw last year all the division winners got out right in the NLDS. Last I checked, the NLCS was 2 wildcard teams, Phillies and Padres. So it really doesn't matter where you finish now. It matters who gets hot and when they get hot. You know, the Dodgers have won the NL West for past 10 years. And when was the last time they made it to the World Series? What, 3 times? I mean, they, got canned in the NLDS, in the NLCS. So I guess kind of just the point to go off of here is it doesn't matter where you finish. Yeah, if you have the division, and honestly, I don't even know if winning the division is a good thing in terms of rest, because you win the division, and we saw last year, guys had like a week worth of rest, and then, it didn't really help them out. They were all fatigued and tired. I mean, you saw it with the Braves and the Dodgers. I'm not saying that determines if you win the division. Obviously, I would love for the Mets to win the division, but, it really doesn't matter if you win the division or not. It matters, like I said, who gets hot and when they get hot. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, we're kind of going to have to see how that goes. Realistically, though, you want my honest opinion, I could probably see the Mets winning. I think they'll probably be in second. I really do. I think right now, I think right now, I just think there's so many questions with the division. I mean, the Phillies are actually kind of a scary team to an extent. Braves too. So we'll see. Kobe says Lindor put up a 6.8 WAR season while dealing with bad appendix all year. His back finger in June when the New York Mets went to Los Angeles. Oh yeah, the stupid door. Can only imagine the type of production he'll put up feeling 100% this year. Yeah, that's a good point. Obviously, I mean, Lindor was a great contributor last season. I mean, he did phenomenal things. Had a couple quiet moments where he cooled down, started off the season really hot, got a little quiet throughout certain points of the season. And then, he finished off on a good note. Do I think he was great offensively? I don't think he was bad. I don't think he was, crazy. I think in terms of comparing him to other shortstops, I mean, I would say the only really other shortstop that outplayed him was maybe Trey Turner for the most part. But I'm expecting Lindor to, like I said, if Lindor can give me this, 270 average, 360, 370 OBP, 830 to 850 OPS, 130 OPS plus, 20 homers, 100 RBIs, I'll take that. Listen, do I think that's $341 million? If he wins ball games, I don't really care. The contract is a story for another day. But if he could help the Mets win games, and you saw with his wins above replacement, he was responsible for the Mets winning a lot of games. He'd come into clutch. I mean, his defense is definitely another great thing to discuss. He's a great defender. So, when it comes down to it, I think right now, with Francisco Lindor, 2021 was a bad year. 2022, he definitely looked pretty solid. I think Lindor is really going to break out this year. I think he's going to go to his, I wouldn't be surprised if he has a 2018-like season and he's in the MVP conversation. You mix that in with hot Alonso and McNeil and Nimmo getting on base. That's a deadly lineup. Gio, what's going on, man? Long time no see. Appreciate you tuning in, brother. Alex says, would love to see an increase in home runs with runners in scoring position, not just solo shots, but we'll take what we can get, obviously. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, I think last year, that was the case in 2021. Last year, the Mets definitely kind of debunked that theory. Obviously, you had a lot of great table setters and Nimmo getting on base. He was swinging the bat a little bit more, but still he was getting on base. You had Marte getting on base. And you saw Alonso finish the season with like 133 RBIs, breaking the Mets' single season record or however many RBIs he had. And that was the exact reason, because he had guys getting on base. He had Lindor on. He had Nimmo, Marte on. He had guys that were getting on base, and he would hit home runs, and they'd be grand slams. I mean, Alonso had, 2 grand slams last year? Never had a grand slam in his career. He had the one against D.C. in opening weekend, and I think the Marlins at Citi Field. I remember that game. A lot of 3-run homers, a lot of 2-run homers. Alonso didn't have many solo shots last year. Same for Lindor. I mean, Lindor had 26 home runs and got over 100 RBIs because he had Marte and Nimmo and guys in front of him that were getting on base. And like I said, I compare it to the Phillies last season. In the World Series with the Phillies, you had guys like Schwarber and Castellanos and Harper going yard. How many of those were solo shots? The Phillies didn't have a whole lot of table setters last year. You brought in Turner, which I think was a great move to table setter. And look what happened last year. You had all these guys hitting these one solo shots, and, you had the Astros, hitting these 2-3 run home runs because they have table setters. You need table setters, and I think the Mets have that. So I agree with you. I think, and they're great when it comes to hitting with runners in scoring position. Offensively, guys are coming into clutch. Alonso's been coming into more clutch lately. McNeil, Nimmo. The whole lineup is. Look at it. You had a 9th inning comeback last year, 7 runs, and you had 2 outs for like five runs. So with the Cardinals, you almost had that one against the Mariners. The Mets are hitting with 2 outs. They're hitting, on 0-2 counts. They're, the Mets are, you're seeing fundamental hitting. You're seeing them, swing the bat, be patient, play discipline, swing it on 0-2 counts. Hitting with 2 outs, hitting with runners in scoring position. That's what I'm happy about. So if they could do that, that's great. And I'm expecting them to. Christian, what's going on? Kobe says Peterson is going to have a breakout year. Yeah, I really do think he is. I concur. Lane says, how do you feel about the Mets? Yeah, feeling pretty happy, pretty confident. Hopefully things will continue to go well for the New York Metropolitans. It's going to be an exciting season. As stated, obviously, I'm going to be here for all of it. So definitely, Lane, please, stay around because we have some great stuff to talk about. Action Jackson says, should I skip my last period to get home and go watch the Red Sox? Yeah, actually, I probably shouldn't say this, but I will. I'm supposed to be in class right now. I didn't go. I knew I wouldn't. I'm not going to sit an hour and 15-minute lecture and have the game on my computer. So don't worry, I'm not really missing anything. It's comparative politics. So yeah. So we'll see how that goes. But listen, go for it, man. I think you guys are opening up against the Orioles, so that should be a pretty decent matchup. Kind of surprised Corey Kluber is your starter, but I guess it's the Red Sox case. Let's see what else is going on. Are you happy with the current Mets lineup, says Michael? Yeah, listen, I'm not, I think it's a solid lineup. If they can stay consistent, I think that's going to be the biggest thing. The only, I guess, 2 kind of questions that I have with the Mets lineup is the catcher position, the DH, and third base. Right now, the catcher position, you're not getting a whole lot of offensive production. Narvaez is not going to, hit above 220. He's going to have a low OBP, low OPS. He won't hit a lot. Maybe he'll get a couple knocks, a couple walks, help out. Nito, same thing. I know Nito got hot in September, but I'm not expecting him to be this great offensive contributor. He had a good spring training, sure. But like I said, I'm not expecting them to, be big contributors offensively. So, the catcher spot's a little, going to be a question. You don't have McCann anymore, which is good, but still. When it comes down to the DH spot, I still do worry. You have the DH spot for a reason. It's not the pitcher hitting. And last year, the DH spot did nothing. In the beginning of the season, Cano and J.D. Davis didn't do anything. And then in the second half, you had Vogelbach and Ruff, and they had a great 2 weeks, and then they didn't do anything. Same for Naquin. So obviously the Mets are staying with the internal route of DH, which I don't think was the smartest idea. Epler's, handling Cohen's $20 billion, and it's, go out and get a great offensive DH. Is Vogelbach going to have a good season? I'd imagine LeCastro and Pham are also going to be the DH. Listen, it's better than Darren Ruff, but I still think those guys are going to be on short leashes. Vogelbach and Pham are going to, and I wouldn't be surprised if, everyone starts taking Darren Ruff's hatred and brings it to Tommy Pham. He didn't look good in spring training. Vogelbach didn't look good in spring training. LeCastro looked good. I'll give him that, but I don't think he's going to DH a lot. I think he's more of a 4th defensive adjustment outfield, position player. Use him for his speed, pitch hitter, pitch runner too. But like I said, if we're coming into May and Vogelbach and Pham aren't doing anything at the DH spot, well, what are you going to do? And then, if I'm looking at AAA and I'm seeing Beatty and Vientos smashing, you bet your ass I'm calling them up and I'm telling Vogelbach and Pham to sit on the bench. I don't like the approach of the Mets focusing the DH internal this season. I think they should have went out this offseason and, got a good hitter. But unfortunately, that's not the case. So, the Mets are going to have a short leash with those guys. Also, the third base position, I do worry also. Eduardo Escobar didn't look good in spring training either. Did not look good. He had 2 bombs, but low average, low on-base percentage. He didn't look good. He had a great September last year, no doubt about it. Carried this team, helped them get to the playoffs when a lot of the offense cooled down. Did not do well for really all the season last year. I mean, he had a decent week in July, and that was about it. So, like I said, if as Escobar going to come back in and it's his last year of his contract, 2-year contract, is he going to do well this year? Or is he going to repeat what he did last year? And if that's going to be the case, if I'm going into June or July or something like that, we'll say if I'm going into June and Escobar is, batting 200 and has 7 home runs, we're going to be looking at Brett Beatty and giving Guillorme more reps. You can't have that. So right now, I mean, those are only the 3 unfortunates with the Mets lineups, in my opinion, is the catcher, DH, and third base. Everything else I'm fine with. I think you have a great lineup. I really do. Nimmo, Lindor, Marte, Alonso, McNeil, Kana. But it's, those other 3 guys that I kind of do worry about a little bit. And, hopefully they prove me wrong. I'm hoping Vogelbach is having a great year. I mean, I think he could hit 30 home runs. He did it before. If the catchers can contribute a little bit offensively, and if Escobar could do what he did in September or do it for at least half the season, I'll take it. So we'll see. Cal says we got a great pitching staff this year, don't we? Yeah, great pitching staff, absolutely. Lane says, can the Mets win the opening? Yeah, I think there's a great chance. I read a statistic that says the Mets have a 637 winning percentage on opening day, which is the best in MLB history. So, and I have noticed that. I think they won 9 out of their last 10 or 8 out of their last 10 opening days. So I will say, a lot of them, I mean, you won last year's 2021. You didn't really have because the Nationals and it was COVID. I remember that. I think you even won 20. Yeah, you won 2020. Cespedes hit the home run. 2019 you won. 2018, 17. Yeah, they've been very successful on opening day. So we'll see if that can carry over. Traces, how strong is the Mets bullpen? Would you say? I feel since we lost Diaz, it was a blow, but still decent in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, I still think right now, losing Edwin Diaz is, definitely an unfortunate blow. Don't get me wrong. But I still think the Mets have a decent bullpen put around. Yeah, I think losing Diaz definitely brings the Mets bullpen value down a lot. No doubt about it. I mean, now guys like David Robertson and other key bullpen roles are really going to have to take it up a bit. I'm kind of surprised to see the Mets didn't want to try and go after Alexis Diaz. Not because he's Edwin Diaz's brother, just because he's a dominant reliever and he's on a team that's selling. So, and you can always call the A's or the Rays coming midseason if the closer role really becomes an issue. But yeah, right now, I think the Mets probably went from being a top 5 bullpen to maybe a top 10. I wasn't, I don't really think Diaz is, was going to do what he did last year, this year. But I think he would have had something similar to that. So it's kind of unfortunate to see him get lost. Yeah. I think the Mets bullpen will be decent. They're going to blow games. They're going to come into clutch in certain games. That's how it's going to go. 7 games to open in a retractable. Yeah, you're right. The Brewers and Marlins. So, yeah, that'll be interesting. It's a good point. Alex says, biggest strength and weakness for this team this year. I think biggest strength will probably be starting pitching. I mean, once again, the Mets, for the most part, have been ranked the best pitching staff in baseball. So I would say starting pitching. Weakness, yeah, probably the lack of power. I get it. You have Alonso. Pete Alonso is going to hit you 40 home runs. You have Lindor. He'll hit you 25. But otherwise, besides that, who's really giving you power? Nimmo's a great hitter, but his approach isn't for power. Same can go for McNeil. They're contact-oriented guys. They'll give you 10. Maybe if Nimmo swings the bat a little bit more, which I'm not crazy about, he'll hit 15 like he did last year. But like I said, you're really just relying on Alonso and Lindor. Your 3-4 hitter. McNeil and Alonso are not going to hit for a whole lot of power. Marte will give you some. Ken has expressed that he's changing his approach. He's changing his swing attack to swing for more power, higher exit velocity. So who knows? Maybe we could see Canna hit like 20 or something. That'd be interesting to see. Is Escobar going to go back to what he used to be? Escobar, keep in mind, hit like 30 home runs just in 2021. If Escobar could do that and Vogelbach could do that, you're set when it comes to power. But otherwise, you only really have 2 offensive contributors with power. I don't know if they're going to call up Alvarez or Vientos later in the season, but that could solve it. But right now, those are the 2, yeah. So I would say strength, rotation, weakness, lack of power. Francisco Alvarez is in AAA, yeah, which Lane, to be honest, I think that was a good move. I think that was an appropriate move. I mean, regardless of him not having a good spring training, I still think defensively he needs to work. Offensively, he needs to work still. He spent a small sample size in AAA last year and didn't put up the best numbers still in AAA. So I'd like him to still go out there and kind of grind, learn. And, like I said, if he's at the MLB level, he's not going to be catching every day. He's going to be a backup most likely. And if that's the case, he's not going to get as many reps. I want him to get all the reps out there in AAA. Are you attending the season opener? Unfortunately, I am not. I live in Florida. I live near West Palm Beach, but I go to school in DeLand. I go to Stetson University, aka DeGrom School, as that's what people call it. But I just wasn't able to get down there. And, I was trying to think with one of my buddies and, maybe like we went down there and I live about an hour from Miami. So we just crashed at my place. But it was kind of hard. Couldn't really plan it last minute. And, and it sucks because the next time the Mets come down to Miami is August. And that's like right when I go back to school. So, yeah, I don't know. Hopefully I get to see the Mets this year. I'll be going to a lot of non-Met games. I'll be going to Wrigley, Guaranteed, Comerica, and Rogers Center, but none of them are playing the Mets, unfortunately. Alex says, who should be the closer now? Yeah, I mean, right now you'd probably say the closer is going to be David Robertson, considering that's been his role. He's been a closer for a good chunk of his career. Obviously, with the Phillies last year, he was the closer. The Mets beat him in that one Phillies outing, Canna and McNeil, which is great to see. But, with that said, it's probably going to go to David Robertson. Yeah, Sugar will be missed. I appreciate it. Yeah, I got this hat at Citi Field. I want to say I got this hat in Citi Field like 2019 for like $30. So it's a nice hat. One of my favorite Mets hats. Like if I'm not wearing like an actual like authentic, Mets hat, I'd probably wear this or I don't know, one of the All-Star hats. Big hat guy, of course. Ryan, what's going on? He says, hey, to new viewer here. Let's go Mets. Appreciate you tuning in, man. Definitely make sure you subscribe, hit that like button. If you have any comments, questions, Ryan, feel free to drop them in the chat. Of course, you are more than welcome to do that. Tell your friends about this channel. Follow me on Twitter at Mets Hayden. Appreciate you being here, man. 90 games for the Marlins. Jazz, we need to be healthy, and all their vets have career years with solid pitching. Yeah, I mean, offensively, I don't think the Marlins are a crazy team. Obviously, guys like Avisal Garcia or, of question. Let me look at their lineup for a minute. I'm trying to, who was the other guy they brought in last year? Jorge Soler. Garcia and Soler didn't do great last year. You brought in Luis Arias, Gene Segura this season. I think Arias will be a nice contact approach guy, table setter. Gene Segura, I think he'll do all right. It'll be interesting to see, Jazz Chisholm, how that operation works with him playing in the outfield, not second base. Obviously, second base is going to go to Luis Arias for the Marlins. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how the Marlins operation of Jazz Chisholm in the outfield goes. Hopefully that goes well. But you have a lot of young guys. You have a lot of young guys like Brian De La Cruz, Jesus Sanchez. Obviously, Jazz Chisholm is definitely a young guy. Nick Fortes. So it's going to be interesting to see if those young guys could do stuff. And like you said, the vets, if guys like Gene Segura, Jorge Soler, they have great years, then yeah, you can get something. John Birdie too. He'll be a very, very crucial guy. Otherwise, yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. I could see it either way. I could see them being this 70-win ball club, but I could also see them being this 90-win ball club. So Marlins, Marlins are always a pain in the behind. So we'll see. Alvaro says, so no trumpets till Diaz comes back? Probably. I don't think so. Should David Robertson be the closer? Yeah, answered that before. Probably will. Will Lindor live up to the contract? Yeah, I mean, that's been a question that I've kind of thought about a lot. I think it's kind of hard being labeled this $341 million guy. I think if you look at it, you look at his stats from last year, I mean, it's really kind of impossible to just place an exact, financial adjustment on him. I think at the end of the day, if Lindor could bat 270, an OBP of, 360, 370, OPS of 830, 850, 20, 25 home runs, 100 plus RBIs, that's all I'm asking for. Do I think I'll ever live up to 341? Well, I guess what stats would you need? I mean, would you look at a guy like Harper's contract or Bogarts, Tatis? Who really knows? Do I think he's going to have anything like a 2018 season again? I hope so. And I think he's capable of it. So I think so. It's plenty more years. Phillies might have a slight edge with Turner, but they lost Hoskins. Yeah, and that's also the point. Right, that's the point I brought up before is, you lost Hoskins, so now you're putting David Hall at first, who's not great defensively. Decent offensively last year, but will it be enough? Who's the best pitcher in MLB this season? Yeah, I mean, like, will Verlander have the same season he had last year? Same goes for Alcantara. I mean, it's kind of a hard question to answer now. I mean, usually I'm used to saying a guy like DeGrom or someone, but I don't know if that's the case. I mean, just naming three guys, not in a particular order. I mean, I could see like Corbin Burns, Sandy Alcantara. I mean, those are two big guys. DeGrom, I mean, when he's on the field, he's healthy. It's just we haven't seen that. I think Zach Wheeler's a great, I mean, there's a lot of, if you want like a top 10 or a top 3, I'd probably say like Corbin Burns, number 1, number 2, Verlander. I don't know. It's tough. I mean, you want like a top 5. Maybe you could see like Alcantara, Scherzer, Cole, Verlander, Burns. I really don't know. It's tough. I'm used to just saying DeGrom, plain simple, but what is he going to play? More than 2 games this year? Seth says I agree with that 100%. I don't know what it was, but I'm glad we agreed. Who gets hot and when? That's why I'm not big on expanded playoffs. Less is more. Yeah, I agree with that mentality. I love Cohen, what he's doing for my Mets and the Borough of Queens. Absolutely. Christian says the bye is not an advantage in postseason history when a team with 4 or more days off plays a team with 3 or less days off. The team that ended rest has lost over 70% of time. Yeah, that makes sense. Joe says even the Astros in their series against the Mariners barely won. They had a walk-off from Alvarez, that crazy 19-inning scoreless game. I do remember that. That is a good point. Do the Mets have the best rotation in baseball still? They have plenty of depth guys and great veterans who have a successful track record. I do. I still do think they have the best rotation. I mean, right now the Yankees have so many gaps. I mean, you don't have Rodon, Domingo Germán, and yeah, I mean, right now, I mean, you look at the Yankees rotation, and like Clark Schmidt is like the number 3 starter. I think when healthy, I think they have a great rotation, no doubt. I mean, looking at the Yankees' depth, I mean, right now, I mean, your rotation is what? Garrett Cole, Nestor Cortez, Domingo Germán, and Clark Schmidt, and bullpen for 5. I mean, you unfortunately don't have Carlos Rodon, or so that was definitely a big loss. You know, loss of your sole southpaw. You know, Brewers, yeah, you have Burns, Woodruff, Peralta. I still think they're a great rotation. 4-5, a little bit questionable, I feel still. Aaron Ashby, we'll see. Eric Lauer. You know, Phillies, you have a good 1-2 punch of Wheeler, Nola. I don't think Walker's that great. Obviously, number 5 for them is probably going to be a bullpen. Abel's also going to miss some time for the Phillies. So, yeah, I would say the Mets do. The Mets rotation is better this year than last year, in my opinion. The veteran presence is going to play a huge role. And I agree with you on that. I think the Mets' philosophy of having 2 veterans as the starter and the 3, 4, 5 is kind of younger guys. I really do. Apologies. I really do like that mentality of thinking. Sorry, my voice was killing me. Mets could easily have given Beatty the third base job and moved Escobar to utility role. Escobar has played all 4 infield positions and left field through his career. Yeah, he could have. I think when it comes down to it right now, when it comes to the utility spot, I honestly, I mean, I think that's more of Guillorme's role. But as a whole, like I said, Escobar, I wouldn't be surprised if he's on a short leash. Really wouldn't. How will pitchers adapt to the pitch clock? Yeah, I mean, it's going to be definitely something to adapt for most pitchers. Obviously, getting started. You know, obviously getting started. I mean, you're going to see your guys like your veterans like Verlander and Cole and Wheeler and Wainwright, who have been in the leagues for quite some time. I wouldn't be surprised if they struggle with it. But then I wouldn't be surprised if you see your younger guys like your rookie pitchers and Logan Gilbert and David Peterson. They take advantage of it because they're familiar with it. They used it in the minor leagues. The question of who does it put pressure on? Is it the pitcher's pressure, the offense, the batter's pressure? We'll see. Like they asked Canna, and Canna said it's going to be pressure on the pitchers. And then I think they asked said it was Ottavino, and then he said it's going to put pressure on the batters. So it'll be interesting to see. Sorry. Yeah, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see. I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be a lot of ejections this year because of it. We already, seeing guys get frustrated, for stepping out of the box and getting called a strike, or same can go for the pitchers for a ball. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a guy like Machado get tossed, or something like that. So definitely, keep an eye out on that because something may happen with it this year. I wouldn't be surprised. So yeah, like I said, we have about a couple minutes till opening day, the first pitch. I believe it's the Yankees and Giants and Braves and Nationals. So probably going to go put that on momentarily. What game should I watch? The Nationals and Braves or Yankees and Giants? Probably watch Yankees and Giants. It'll be interesting to see. The newly named New York Yankees captain, Aaron Judge. See how he could do this season. He's in for definitely a big role. Obviously, a couple former Mets on the Giants. Obviously, Michael Conforto, J.D. Davis, Wilmer Flores. Conforto is in the lineup. He's batting second. Flores is batting third. Davis is not in the lineup. He's on the bench. Yankees have Judge batting second. Oh, because Stanton, right? Duh. Yeah, Anthony Volpe. batting ninth. He's the opening day shortstop for them. So it'll be interesting to see what Anthony Volpe could do for the Yankees this year. The Yankees are going to be in it for an interesting season. I don't think Aaron Hicks and Isaiah Falefa, I don't think that fantasy is going to last very long. I wouldn't be surprised if Anthony Volpe just tells Isaiah Falefa skadoosh, goodbye, and same can go for Oswaldo Cabrera for a guy like Aaron Hicks. This is a lineup that I think is pretty decent. I think you have some questions, obviously. Judge and Stanton stay healthy. That's great. I don't think, Rizzo's not going to hit for a high average. It'll be great for homers. I think LeMahieu will be good. I think Gleyber Torres will be decent. I don't think he's this 40 home run season guy. I think the younglings and Oswaldo Cabrera and Anthony Volpe will do great. Trevino will do whatever. But it's Josh Donaldson, Isaiah Falefa, and Aaron Hicks. And the Yankees, they want to get those guys out immediately. I'll tell you that Falefa and Donaldson trade was one of the worst that's been made recently. So, we'll see how that goes. Going to keep an eye out on that game. Let's get back to this. How many games will the Mets win this season? Say 97. That's pretty good. 40 of the last 53. That's pretty good. How many home runs for Pete Alonso this year? Kobe says, I'm going to say 45. The Mets brought in the right field wall a little bit. I think I'll have some more Apo tacos. Which surprise prospects could find roles for the Mets? I would like to see Mauricio develop into an Alvarez right role. He has the power. I really would like to see him start playing an outfield position. Like I said, he doesn't have the body for third. Shortstop's taken. He doesn't have the body for second. He's too big. So I wouldn't be against working him, him getting some outfield roles. 94 to 68. Yeah, that's fair. I'm so hyped. What's going on, Jeff? You and me both, man. Michael says, I love Steve Cohen, what he's doing for my Mets. Absolutely. Will Jeff win the batting title? Yeah. McNeil win the batting title, obviously. McNeil won the batting title last season. He put up great numbers, 326 average. I think it's possible. Considering McNeil's approach at the plate, he's this bat-to-ball guy, and maybe the pitch count will – I'm really thinking the pitch count's going to help him because he's a guy who makes the pitcher work. So I think it's just going to put more pressure on the pitchers. So, do I think McNeil's going to win the batting title again? Maybe. Back-to-back years, we'll see. It's not very, common. We'll see. I think it's possible. LFGM. When will Beatty get called up? Probably maybe June, July, considering how things go. Will the Mets finally win the division in 2023? Why not? I'll say sure. But, if anyone else has any more comments, questions, or concerns, feel free to drop it below. Otherwise, we'll probably get calling it in a minute or two. We have a couple minutes till the Yankees and Giants game. The Braves and Nationals game has started. Patrick Corbin already in a 1-2 count. He's facing Ronald Acuna Jr. So the first pitch of the season was a strike, and you could see the pitch count is obviously up. And Ronald Acuna will drive that one into right field, and that'll be the first hit of the 2023 season. Will belong to Ronald Acuna Jr. So there, we have recorded that on a stream. So congrats to the Braves fans out there. Acuna, his first hit of the season, and of course it's against one of the worst pitchers in baseball, Patrick Corbin. But that's a story for another day. So yeah, like I said, we're going to call it a stream here. Appreciate everybody for tuning in to today's stream. As always, it's been a phenomenal stream. Super, super excited for a great baseball season to come. It's going to be super, super pumped. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, definitely keep an eye out. We got some great stuff coming in on the channel. Like I said, stream-based for most of the season, like how it usually is. I'll stream in between each series, do the series summary, series preview, and kind of Q&A style for the rest of it. And, otherwise, probably going to call it a stream here. Really do appreciate everybody for tuning in to the stream as always today. You guys are legends. Appreciate it. It's going to be a great season. It's going to be plenty of good moments, plenty of bad moments. It's going to be an interesting show. So with that said, LFGM, I appreciate everybody for tuning in to the stream. Definitely make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, comment, post notifications, tell your friends about this channel, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you never miss a stream. And if you're rewatching this on replay, definitely I appreciate y'all for tuning in. And yeah, otherwise that's all I have. So LFGM, let's go Mets, baby. Let's ride.